Applying to school in the United States was a process, and it was in a way a long process, but it was all worth it. These requirements were so challenging for me, but thanks to Education USA, I had that opportunity of learning about how to go through that process, and you could prepare yourself well enough for applying to colleges here.
When you are facing something new, whether it's an environment, a new academic way, a new curriculum, you learn to adapt. You have the opportunity to immerse yourself in a truly innovative and diverse culture and to learn unique skills that are going to help you to succeed wherever you decide to do. It's something that is very unique to the United States.
Education USA is not only before you go to college, but also during your college experience. And because they are with you, they follow up with you, they want you to know you're doing good. I see myself as an example of a process that people sometimes see as impossible. It was challenging.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our today's session. We are starting today the webinar series for December. And I am Alina, I'm an Education USA advisor, and we are really, really happy to welcome you all today here with an interesting session related to the LLM program. But first of all, I would just like to mention that Education USA Virtual is here to help you with more interesting webinars and courses, which are available on our website and on our social media related to your graduate or undergraduate studies. So in case if you are seeking for assistance or consultations from our Education USA advisors, you are more than welcome to email us so we can offer you more details on how to find your Education USA center in the region, or if you need any other additional information related to the webinars that we are presenting, you can also email us. All the information is available on our website. There is even a QR code that you can see on our screen now. So we hope that you will use this opportunity. Thank you so much again for joining us today. I am happy to welcome our today's speaker. So we have here Sara Gonzalez from University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and she prepared for us an interesting presentation about the LLM program because we dedicated this month specifically to graduate students. So we hope that you'll use this opportunity to prepare for your application. And Sara is here to give us more information specifically on law. So Sara, the floor is yours. You can also introduce yourself a bit more because you have a huge experience on that. So I think it's going to be even more interesting for the students to know more about what they can get now.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much for the opportunity to kind of share information on legal admissions in the United States. Deciding to study abroad and deciding to study in the US for law school is a big choice, and it can create wonderful opportunities for students when it comes to additional work experience in the US or when you go back home to your home country. And so just by way of introduction, again, my name is Sara Gonzalez. I run law programs here at UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I also ran a law school LLM program in California. I've been doing law admissions for 20 years. And so I have a lot of experience when it comes to working with students and providing opportunities in the United States. And so what I'm sharing in regards to the application process, finding funding, what to expect when it comes to legal education, hopefully will help you as you're making decisions to study law. So one thing I do always want to start with is in the United States, there are different levels of accreditation when it comes to law schools. How we structure law school in the US is going to be different than many international jurisdictions. You may be more familiar with an LLB in law, so law is offered at perhaps the bachelor's level. In the United States, law is offered at the graduate level. So candidates have typically a bachelor's degree, and then they go on to one of the degree programs. And so in the United States, there are two levels of accreditation when it comes to law school programs. There are regionally accredited programs. This can be a California accredited school like you'll see in purple, or a Northwest accredited, or all these different regional accreditations. For international candidates looking at law schools in the US, one of the most important notes is to limit yourself to the national level of accreditation, which is the American Bar Association. So ABA accredited programs is the highest level of accreditation in the US. They have the highest standards when it comes to sitting for the bar exam or getting a job. They are the most respected level of accreditation. There are 157 law schools that are approved by the ABA. So you have plenty of choices, larger, smaller programs, different specializations. So even with limiting yourself to ABA programs, you're going to have a lot of choices when it comes to your legal education. So when it comes to understanding your different degree programs, there are prompts I always like students to think about before you're applying to law school. Do you want to be a lawyer? What are you looking to do when it comes to law practice? Are you looking to be credentialed in the US with the bar exam? Are you looking to receiving specialized knowledge to go back to your home country and be the expert in whatever the case may be? Where are you looking at practicing is an important component, and are you looking at sitting for the bar exam? So by thinking about these three elements in regards to kind of the future and what you're hoping to do with this law degree, that will help you understand which of the different degree programs would be a better fit to help you accomplish these goals. So I always recommend that applicants stop to think about the why so that they can help inform them in regards to the how they're going to go through their legal education. So when it comes to understanding the different degree options in the United States, there are 3 different law degrees available in the US. Again, law degrees internationally are typically that LLB in law, and then you can have LLM programs available internationally as well. In the US, the first degree of law is the JD degree, which is that 3-year law degree. This is comparable to that LLB in law, but offered at the graduate level. The second degree is the LLM. This is the 1-year advanced law degree. And so most international candidates coming in to law schools here in the United States focus on that LLM degree. I am seeing more interest in JDs for some countries and regions where there is a saturation of LLM students, and so they're looking at getting those JD degrees, but I haven't seen that in Eastern Europe yet. And then the third degree of law is the doctorate of law. You will see this in 2 different ways, a JSD or an SJD. There are 2 programs that offer a doctorate, DCL, doctorate in comparative law, but I'm going to give you a few resources in a few slides where you can look up all these different degree programs. But just to give you the lay of the land, there's 3 different law degrees, type of law degrees available in the United States. And so typically your JD degree is going to be kind of what you've done similarly with your LLB in law. This is the first degree required to practice law in the United States. But for international candidates, most will focus on that LLM. And so as an international candidate with an LLB in law, as long as you have the first degree of law required for law practice in your home country, you are then eligible to jump to step 2, which is that LLM degree in law. So with the LLM degree, that is a 1-year advanced degree program. So it requires that you, again, hold a law degree from your home country. It is open to both US and international candidates. So you will see different programs that will have different composites in regards to being mixed with US students or only international students. That'll be kind of one of the elements to look for when it comes to finding the right program. And you'll see 3 different types of LLM programs. You will see kind of a general LLM. I kind of describe this as the buffet of legal education. They may have 1 or 2 required courses, like an introduction to US law or a legal writing, but then it's literally you going through the curriculum and deciding how you would like to craft your program. Oh, I'd like to take a bankruptcy class or environmental law or whatever the case may be. But with general programs, you're hitting a certain unit load. It may be a 24, 28 unit LLM program, but you get the ability to craft your own. There are other LLM programs that are marketed as a bar track program. So if you're looking at taking one of the bar exams, some of the bar exams in the US will require that you take very specific coursework that are topics covered by the bar. And so these are LLM programs that are marketed to kind of prepare you for that bar exam. Now, keep in mind, For even US candidates that have gone through 3 years of legal education, they still sit for a bar prep course, but I'll go over the bar requirements in a later slide. And then the third type of LLM program you'll see is a specialized LLM program. So there are specializations available in a variety of different fields. These specialized programs will have a specific curriculum. So it'll require very specific courses and then offer some electives where you can then pick and choose some of those other classes that will help complement the program. But I think going through and understanding you want to do an LLM degree and then going through and understanding what type of LLM degree is something that you'll want to take some time to think about prior to the application process. Typically, when you're admitted into one program, you may not be able to switch into the different types of programs. So this is something you do want to think about ahead of time. And then when it comes to those specializations, this is just a sampling. I'm going to give you a resource in a few slides of where you can look up these specializations, but you'll have LLM degrees in tax, in dispute resolution, intellectual property. I'm in Las Vegas, so the program I run is in gaming law and regulation. I've seen programs in space law, maritime, cybersecurity is one that's been popping up. And so you'll see degree specializations in a variety of different options. And I'm going to give you some resources on how to look that up in just a moment. And so that third law degree is that doctorate of law. So if you have an end goal of knowing you want to maybe teach at a university or conduct research, understanding that your end goal may be a doctorate of law is going to be important to know as you're applying for LLM programs. So JSD or SJD programs will require a different application process than what I'll highlight because it requires a research proposal. SJD programs will require an LLM. There are many SJD programs that will require a US LLM, and then there are some SJD programs that will require their LLM. So if you know your end goal is to really be the expert in a specific field from a specific, and you with an end goal of a doctorate from a specific institution, look at that SJD requirements and look backwards to see what type of LLMs they'll accept, if you can go to anywhere in the US, or if you have to be very specific to their program. So this is important to know if you know your end goal is to be to publish and research within this field. When it comes to some of the other degree options, again, understanding legal education in the US is different than many other countries or regions. I always like to put a little slide because many law schools are offering what are called these alternative law degrees. These are Masters of Legal Studies, Masters of Studies in Law, MS in Law, MLS. You'll see a few different avenues or words. There's like 20 different degree names for these type of programs. These are non-law tracks. So I mention this because if you have a law background and you want to study law in the US, you should limit yourself to JD, LLM, or SJD programs. These MLS programs or Masters of Law programs are specifically for those that are non-lawyers that want to better understand maybe reading employment contracts. So they will not qualify you for a bar exam. And so I like to point this out because it can be confusing looking at a university website and seeing these options. But if you have a law background, focus on those other 3 degrees. If you don't have a law background, this would be an option for if you work in HR and want to better understand contracts without the intent of practicing law. One of the big questions I get from candidates is choosing between LLM or JD programs. And so I always frame this around, well, what do you hope to do with it? JD programs are that 3-year first degree of law. And if your intent is to working in the United States, you then have 3 years of clerkships, summer opportunities to then provide that additional work experience. And so we did a session a few weeks ago, and it kind of described JD programs as kind of the luxury. If you have the time and the money to spend 3 years in the US, it's great. You can still qualify to sit for a bar exam. The JD program will qualify you to sit for all the bar exams, versus the LLM will qualify you. It's the more efficient route for international candidates where you just go in for 1 year of study, you still take a bar prep course. But if your end goal is to be able to specialize in a particular area, then the LLM is a better route. There are 31 different bar exams that you could qualify to sit for, and I'll go over some of that in the last slide. And then there are a couple hybrid programs. So if you can't decide between the two, go to the university's websites to see if they have transfer programs or joint programs or accelerated JD programs. Some law schools will accept credits from your LLB in law to be able to have you do 2 years instead of 3 years, but you can go to the university websites for those. So when it comes to choosing the different schools, how to pick the right program, there are a lot of different factors to take. You can look at location, so whether or not it's in a big urban city, a suburban environment, maybe you have family in one of the major cities in the United States. Looking at reputation of the school and faculty, especially if you're looking at a specialized area of study, being able to see, are there conferences or symposiums that that academic program may offer where you can have additional professional networking opportunities available to you? What are the type of course selection options available to students in the LLM? There are some LLM programs that will pretty much allow you to take any of the courses available to JD students, but there are other LLM programs that limit you to only these specific courses approved for the LLM. So knowing availability of the type of courses can be important when it comes to choosing the school. One of the big benefits of studying law in the US is the ability to access some of these clinical or externship opportunities. So within my specific program, we require that students do an externship. So I work to place a student within a gaming organization here in Las Vegas to make sure that they understand the practice. When it comes to gaming, there are other LLM programs that will also have externships and clinics available. So being able to do the research on the university websites to figure out what those curricular requirements can be very important. And then any special characteristics that are important to you. I've had students, going to law school is not an easy endeavor. Like in your home country. And so being able to balance being at the school with their extracurriculars, if that school has a sports team that you can follow or get involved with intramurals. I've had many students want to play football, what we call in America soccer, here in the US, and there can be intramurals where you can balance your studies with kind of those important components. When it comes to finding a school, there's a couple of resources I always recommend to applicants. So the Law School Admissions Council, or lsac.org, is a third-party organization that processes a lot of applications on behalf of the law school. It's kind of a centralized organization that receives components that you can then use that to then send off. What they do have is a directory of law schools for JD programs and for all the ABA accredited LLM programs. So this is a neutral way where you can go in and you can put in your parameters in regards to what you want to find, a small, medium, large school that is in this region of the United States, or maybe might specialize in a specific area, but they've got a good search engine where you can go through and then you click through and apply through their portal system. Another option is llmguide.com. This is kind of more of informal chatter. And so LLM Guide is a third-party for-profit company, but they have a lot of profiles of all the different schools that will go into detail, but they have those chat components of, hey, I got admitted to X, Y, and Z. What do you think? And they will have conversations that go on with other applicants and other students. The one I'd like to highlight is the ABA directory for LLM and post-JD programs. So all of us that are accredited by the ABA have to, again, apply for acquiescence to this organization. So this is the official organization that will list by specialization. So if you say, I'm really interested in an LLM in data security and privacy, you can be able to look up by those specializations. Or if you know, I really want to study in a specific Washington, D.C., maybe you have interest in the specific cities, you can look by location and look by the specific law schools. And so when it comes to finding that information, so this is the website that you would go to for that ABA. I did put a QR code just to make it a little bit more convenient. But when you're scrolling through that ABA website, you'll see on the page that it does it by subject area. If you go back one page from there, you can then have it scroll by school as well. But I always like this one because it is done, because we have to apply for acquiescence. It's great to be able to have a one-stop place where you can look and see all the different programs that are offered in that particular financial services area. For example, you'll see all those different programs, and then you could then go to the individual school website. So those also should be hyperlinks where you can then click on the university that takes you to the university website to provide more detail on that. And then again, they also do it by school. So if you know you have a specific school in mind, you want to see what type of programs, that's a good option as well. Pay attention to those last three initials that are behind the program. So if you see that First University has that MLSL, that's that non-law degree that I was mentioning. So look specifically for the LLM that's post that subject area to be able to find the right schools. When it comes to the application process, there are a few components that are required as part of the application. So the personal statement is an important component. So I understand EdUSA on December 12th is going to have a different session on specifically that statement of purpose or personal statement. They're interchangeable. It's essentially that essay that helps highlight why you're interested in the program and what you're hoping to do. I do have some YouTube videos that are specific to legal education and personal statements, so I'm not going to go into that in too much detail here, just cursory, but I'm sure we can share the link for those that are interested at a later point. So the application will require that personal statement that helps us understand the why, your resume CV. Now that will look differently for US standards. We do not put photos, so there are some differences when it comes to the formatting of that. Letters of recommendation. Each of the different schools will have different requirements in regards to how many they will require, but the letters of recommendation are a strategic way for you to tell your story through the eyes and lens of somebody else, right? It helps us understand your academic or professional work experience. Your transcripts, some schools will have a requirement that you go through an evaluation service. Some schools will do them in-house and accept transcripts directly. So this is one component you do want to do your research on to make sure you know if you can accept, if they will accept that those transcripts directly or have to go through a third party. The Law School Admissions Council, which is that organization I mentioned earlier, if you're applying through their system, they will just have a box you can check where you can allow them to evaluate it while you're submitting it through them. Some schools will accept those applications directly. So again, this is where you create your list of universities you're applying for, and then you figure out if they're applying through LSAC or apply directly and figure out those options. And then most law schools will require some sort of English proficiency test. So this could be a TOEFL, could be an IELTS, a Duolingo. Many law schools will waive that requirement if you have a letter from your institution stating that the medium of instruction is in English. But also keep in mind that many law schools are now conducting a lot of video interviews now via Zoom. I used to do them via Skype, but essentially video interviews that can also help us get a better understanding of your English skills as well as your interest in our particular programs. And so these components do take time, so you do want to make sure that you plan accordingly. There is no standardized test when it comes to LLM admissions. And so you may see something about an LSAT exam, the law school admissions test, that is an exam that's only required for JD applicants. So if you're applying for that 3-year law degree, that is a requirement. And honestly, you do want to do well on that because many scholarships are based on that LSAT and GPA. But for law school LLM programs, it is not a requirement. You should focus on just these components as part of that application process. So again, some of these components do take time. There are differing deadlines when it comes to applying for admissions. Many law schools already are open for admissions now for fall 2025. So you do want to start thinking about that process to go through those applications. I am seeing more law schools move into rolling admissions, which means as we receive applications, we will then turn around decisions. But there are some law schools that have very specific dates that will close in January or February. And so you do want to do your research to start applying to schools now. So especially if you're looking at scholarships, applying early provides more opportunity because we have larger budgets to make decisions. And as we give money out on scholarships and make decisions, we have more room available. The later you apply, there's usually less room available for students, and also portrays you as a kind of someone that goes through the application process as the last minute. So you do want to think ahead. You do want to apply early to give yourself opportunity for that. There are elements that will require time for study. So if you have to take the TOEFL or IELTS, do make sure you do that early. The transcript evaluation process can typically take a few weeks. So I always recommend to applicants, let that be the first thing you work on if it's a requirement for that program. So as the evaluator is working on evaluating those transcripts, you're writing your personal statement, you're refreshing your resume and submitting the other components so that it's by the time the evaluation's done, you've got everything else ready to go when it comes to that application process. When it comes to deadlines, again, there are some deadlines due as early as November. Majority will be due in February and March for the upcoming fall term, and some will accept them as late as June, but I really encourage you to focus on that front half of that bell curve and try to get your applications in early. There are some law schools that will accept applications for January entry. So if the fall or August, September time period is not convenient for you, some law schools will accept you to start in the spring, which typically is in a January timeframe. When it comes to, again, that application process, this is the Law School Admissions Council. This is the third-party organization. If you're applying to multiple programs, you would upload all of your documents, the same documents I mentioned, your personal statement, transcripts, letters of recommendation would come to your recommenders to LSAC, and then it would allow you to then send that same application to multiple different institutions. So it's very convenient if you're applying to multiple programs. It is possible to create your own portal system, and if you're interested in programs, they have a CRS, a candidate referral service, where you can put your contact information in there, and then schools can contact you about their programs. That's free, but LSAC will charge money to do the application process through their system. When it comes to understanding the cost for the programs, this is going to give you a ballpark when it comes to cost for LLM programs in the United States. They will vary from $19,000 for some of the smaller state schools to $84,000. Do not let this deter you. Most of those private schools that have the higher ticket price know that they're expensive, which means that they typically will try to compensate with providing some sort of scholarship so they can become competitive with many of us state schools that will have a lower tuition costs. So when you're applying for LLM programs, don't look at the price tag yet. It's when you receive your admission, when you receive a scholarship offer with that admission, that you have a better understanding of how much your actual education is going to cost. And so when it comes to looking at the costs for LLM programs, they will vary, but you can also factor in that many of them do provide assistance, and there are third parties that provide scholarships as well. And so I describe this in two different ways. There are internal scholarships that you will receive from the university, and external scholarships which have completely different deadlines, but you can use them in collaboration with what you get from us. And so if the university is giving you a partial scholarship and you get another scholarship for an organization for $10,000 or $15,000, you can combine them to help cover your tuition costs. And so I do, here is a list of some of the third-party organizations. There are a number of organizations out there. Do your research. It's never too early to do research in order to find funding options to help cover your study. I do collect them. This is my community service, is I put them on my website. It doesn't matter if you're looking at my program or other programs, but you're welcome to go through my scholarship site and look at all those different scholarship options. On there will be hyperlinks that will shoot you off to the third-party organizations. But doing your research and finding these scholarships can be done ahead of time before you apply for admissions, because some of these scholarships are very extensive that will pay full costs. Some of them are partial. Don't rule out the partial, because many partials can add into a full tuition. When it comes to practicing law, this is one website I always recommend. ncbex.org is the National State of Bar Examiners. They collect data on how many bar exams, all throughout the U.S. So just to give you a frame of mind, We make things complicated. There is no national bar exam in the United States. Each of the states will jurisdictions will run their own bar exam. Of the 50 states, about 31 will recognize an international degree in law and allow you to sit for the bar exam. Of those, some of them will have coursework that's very specific required, and some do not. So California, New York are two more popular options. But like states like Nevada, we don't have cure coursework. You can apply for the bar exam without even having to go through the LLM. But knowing this and going through that website would be the best option available to you. And I always like to have this last slide is a lot of people want to be able to sit for the bar exam and practice the bar exam. And so I like to be transparent on some of the hurdles that come with wanting to sit for the bar exam, because you do have to keep these factors in mind when it comes to the bar exams. You will have to take a prep course just like US students. That may cost $2,000, $2,500 depending on the program. These are third-party organizations, not the university, that issues these prep courses. When it comes to finding employment, you will have to find an employer willing to sponsor a visa. You do have to apply for a work visa, which is an H-1B lottery system. Only a third of those apply get it, and which will allow you to then work in the US. And so, wanting to sit for the bar, it could help you in regards to making partner in your home country. It could help you in regards to wanting to do that. But I always like to be transparent with expectations when it comes to sitting for the bar and looking at immigrating to the US, just to be kind of realistic when it comes to some of those expectations. And so I do want to open it up for questions. I know I covered a lot of information in 30 minutes. And so I do want to open up for questions when it comes to questions on the application process or law practice or study here in the United States.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. You are right. I mean, it was a lot of information that I didn't even found out as new. And I see that we already have questions in the chat. And I think we can somehow compare and relate this question to specifically the experience at UNLV. So one of the questions is from Roman. What about LLM scholarships and financial helps in USA universities? So maybe you can tell us more information on how that works specifically at your institution and how you are supporting the students maybe there, and what is the process to apply for a scholarship or
Sure. So so scholarship is an important consideration. Here at UNLV, we do have partial scholarships. We're funded by the State Bar of Nevada. That gives us partial funding to help support students that are going through the program. And we also have one full tuition scholarship funded by the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians. This is specific to someone passionate about tribal gaming. So it's specifically to a specific area. The LLM program at UNLV is a program that is the only program in the world specializing in gaming law and regulation. This is a multi-billion-dollar, $485 billion a year industry. With what Vegas right here behind me, it's like the big industry within the city. But there are LLM programs all throughout the US that have specializations and general programs with different scholarship options. This is where connecting with the law schools, talking with the representative and asking them, because you're trying to build that relationship with the representative. So by the time you get the application, it's not just an application on paper. You have a face to put to the name, and you have a better understanding or interaction with a prospect or student to better understand what their needs are. And so I always recommend to reach out to the different schools and the different reps so that they can better understand your needs and they can go over those scholarship options available to you. Most law schools in the United States will have some sort of scholarship option, but again, they will vary. It can be a couple thousand, maybe a book award. It's very rare that you will have a law school that will offer full tuition, because they do have to keep the electricity on and make sure that they can pay the faculty. So those full tuition, we get those requests all the time. Just know that they're not likely. We have a full tuition simply because we have a third party that provided and donated funds to support a specific cause. And so that's why I always tell students to look at those partial scholarships, because many people want that full tuition, but you don't realize that if you can get $10,000 from the Organization of American States and another from another third party, then those can really add up. but you do have to do your research. There's some really good scholarship programs like Fulbright out there that will pay a good portion of those costs, and the universities will cost share with that and help meet the cost so that you really aren't paying too much for that degree. But those are extensive interviews and essays, so you do have to do your research. It is certainly possible. And then also know there is plan B. So if you can apply to programs and you don't receive the scholarship you need, talk to the school. If this is a school program you really want, we will allow you to defer for 1 year. So that means that that admission decision will hold for 1 year, and that will give you 1 more year to find funding. So it's certainly possible to go through, but you have to do your research and be diligent when it comes to talking with the schools that you're interested in.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I think, yeah, Fulbright is a really good idea, because I think for all the countries in our region, normally they would have this exchange program available. So you can check that information on the U.S. Embassy in your region. The next question comes from Kirill. What are the most important factors for admission to an LLM program? I think you've mentioned some of them, but maybe you want to give some more details on that.
Yeah, so I think it'll vary depending if you're going for a general or a specialized program. So if you're applying for a general LLM program, your personal statement and materials in there will be catered on why you want to be an attorney. Why do you want to study for the US? Are you intending to sit for a bar exam? That helps the administrator and program know, okay, what kind of resources is the student going to need? Are they need the courses that are required for the bar? Are they going to go through and kind of craft their own? If you're looking for a specialized program, then that's where talking about that specialization and interest in that specialization will be more important than why you want to be an attorney. Because we run LLM programs. We know that you're all attorneys, but we want to know why specifically our specialization. You're not expected, I should say, if you're going for a specialized program in gaming, in tax, in other areas, it's not expected that you have experience in that field. People decide to go into an LLM program because they want that experience, because they want that specialization. So don't feel the pressure to have to demonstrate that you have experience in the field. Because it's not necessarily a requirement. Some of the programs will require that you have at least 3, 4, 5 years of work experience before going into their specific program, because you will take much more out of the program having work experience, having been in a legal environment before going through an LLM, but it's not a requirement. We've had students apply straight out of an LLB because they know this is the specialization they want. An LLM specialization can provide you kind of an equivalent. One of my LLMs said it was equivalent to 10 years of work experience. Being able to go through, do a deep dive into a specialization and knowing it in and out, and having a network of contacts that you would get as part of that specialization, take advantage of going to conferences and events that program, because they're known for that field, will probably give to you, will be more helpful to you when it comes to building a career. And so when it comes to writing that personal statement, this is why I'm passionate about that field. This is why I really want to deep dive. For me and an international candidate, tell me what's going on in your current country that has led you to understand that this specialization is very important for you and what you're trying to do, because that helps me understand, if I give this person access to the program, we're not helping and changing their life. We're actually helping them change the country and how they regulate gaming within that region, or whatever the case may be. So if there's a larger picture impact, share that in the personal statement, because that will be helpful for us to know in regards to what the impact is of allowing you access to the education.
That's a great idea for a topic for your personal statement. Thanks so much. And related to the specialization, actually, the next question from Kirill was, how customizable is the curriculum? Can students mix courses from different specializations?
Sure. So that will, if you're doing a general program, completely, it's the buffet of legal education. I will take a property. I will take my bankruptcy. Oh, I really love that environmental law class. That's the benefit of those general programs, is that you can go through and take a lot of those different courses. They may have some limitations in regards to maybe you can't take that specific legal writing or course because it's limited to some of the JD students, but most of those general programs will allow you that ability to customize. When it comes to the specialized programs, that'll vary program to program. We are a specialized program, but the program requires 4 gaming classes, and then you have 4 elective classes that you can kind of pick and choose. And so you will have some specialized programs that will also let you mix courses. And then if you look, legal education is typically a law school that sits within a larger university. So some law schools will even allow you to sit if you really needed. Let's say you're focusing on a tax law program and you really wanted to take that business accounting class to help complement. By choosing a school that may fit within another school, you may be able to cross-register some of these courses with some of the other programs. This is why reaching out to the university directly, asking about their cross-registration policies, and what they'll allow can be important, because you're building, again, that relationship with that admissions officer, but then you get to know what kind of resources that are available. But also keep in mind that you can also audit. So I've had students want to come in and they say, oh, I really wanted to study French. Okay, you can go audit that with the undergrad. You don't have to put that as part of the LLM curriculum, because it's probably cheaper to go through an audit than it would be to use your LLM curriculum to kind of do that added supplement class. But that's the benefit of choosing a law school that has the resources of that larger university.
In a shorter period, I would say. So I think that's one of the greatest benefit. You have a period of studying.
But just also keep in mind, you're only in that LLM program for 1 year. So don't be a kid in the candy store and want to do everything. You are there for that concentrated time period. You can and are eligible to apply for OPT. So you can extend that visa for 1 additional year for work experience as part of that program. But you want to be very strategic in what you're doing with your time.
Perfect. Thank you. And the next question from Tanya: do most LLM students go on to work in the US, or do they return to their home countries? I just remember the student that we had from Moldova coming back from her LLM in the US, and that was a long time ago. But yeah. I think you are the most appropriate to tell some examples.
Yeah, so we do have students that will come here in the US. I have had 2 students from Moldova at my previous university. One came in, mid-career student, came in, did the LLM, went back to her home country. The second did the LLM program and stayed in Los Angeles. So you do have options. Again, that last slide where I talked about the hurdles and when it comes to sitting for the bar exam and being able to practice and immigrate, there are hurdles beyond our control in regards to being able to get a work visa or being able to stay in the US on that work visa. Because it's run through a lottery system, it is up in the air. There are challenges. It is possible. You have 0 chance if you do not try. But I want always a realistic and when it comes to expectations. And so many LLM students will go back to their home country, especially if they're going into specialized programs, because they are now going to be the expert in their country in that specific field. But there are a number of people that will try to immigrate and try to practice law in their home country. Just know you do have that option with LLM programs, as I mentioned, to extend that visa for 1 year. So even if you're practicing for 1 year post your LLM program and go back home, that is a lot of great work experience for you to be able to do. It's just that immigration component that's out of our hand. And I don't know, even with the new administration coming in, what those H-1B visa processes will be like in the upcoming year or years to come.
Agree. Thank you so much. The next question is also from Tanya. What are some red flags for LLM application?
So some red flags are things that you can address within the personal statement. So if we look at your transcript, we do look to see what you've been doing, what you've been studying, and maybe there's a semester that, your grades just didn't do too hot that semester. Something happened in your life. Use that personal statement to address what was going on. Don't let us assume that it was something that was, this student is not a good student because their GPA is XYZ. But help us understand, hey, we did, during that fall semester of this year, I did have a family incident that pulled me away from law school, but I'm still a studious student. As you can see from my transcript, I was able to increase my grades, and I'm dedicated to go through your LLM program and be successful because of X, Y, and Z, right? We look at transcripts, we look at grades because we want to make sure that you have the ability to do well in our programs. And so if there's something in your gap in work history, gap in your education, we understand that life happens. So use that personal statement to describe what were the circumstances, how will it be different when it comes to studying in our program, because we don't want to admit people that are then not going to finish, and so you have to demonstrate that you can finish the program, whatever life threw at you in regards to your circumstances. There's certain elements where it's really in your best interest. So if you're coming in and you're giving us like TOEFL or IELTS scores that are very low, we know that coming through the program, I know you want to study, but you're then going to focus too much on translation than you are on learning the content. And so it would be better to wait, improve that English, or go through an intensive English program and then start the program, because then you're going to get more out of the academic program, having taken away that language barrier to really better understand the content, engage in the coursework, have those class discussions, even after class discussions where you can really engage at a deeper level with the other students. And so you want to be able to kind of address some of those components. Because you want to be at a good place when you're looking at studying in the US, that you're coming in with strong language skills, that you're in the right place professionally to be able to study in the US.
Totally agree with the English proficiency and with the score. And here comes our next question related to that. Do I need to take the TOEFL or IELTS even if I studied law in English in my home country?
So if you have a letter from your university stating the medium of instruction has been in English, you submit that to the university. They typically will waive it. I will still interview the candidates, because you can have a medium of instruction. There was one candidate I had from, I think, Turkey that was studied in English, but the grades were not that great. And then in the interview, I found out it's because the English was not at an appropriate level. So it's not a blanket waiver. You do have to make sure that you can speak English. We understand that nerves happen, and sometimes in an interview, you may be nervous. There's no way to really prep for an interview. It's simply a conversation. It's simply us talking to you and getting to know you. I can see when someone's nervous, so I will talk about random things I'm seeing on a resume, because it helps put the student at ease. So if I see, oh, they play the piano, oh, what was the last piece you played? So that you can kind of get over some of these nerves, and I can get a better understanding of where your language skills are. And so you can submit that waiver, in that medium of instruction letter, but also know that many schools will conduct an interview just to kind of have a better understanding if they're waiving that requirement.
And I also consider that's much easier. I mean, just you have the option to just sell yourself during that interview. So I think that's a great option, just to shine, to have your 5 minutes glory. Okay, the next question is from Kirill, and I think I will answer this one. How to find an Education USA center and how much a consultation costs. So all the consultations are for free, and even all the webinars that we are providing here on our platforms are for free. And you can go on our website and you can find the nearest Education USA center. If you are not managing to find it, you can also write us an email and we will offer you more instructions on this. The next question from Tanya. I plan to apply for a community college. Can I transfer to a law program later?
Good question. So community colleges are education offered at the bachelor's level. And so if you have your high school credential and you're coming into the US, many candidates will do a community college because they can get their first 2 years of their 4-year bachelor's degree done at maybe a cheaper rate and then transfer into a bachelor's program. But because legal education in the US is offered at the graduate level, you need to already have a bachelor's degree. And so you would not be able to transfer college credit from a community college into a law program simply because these are two different levels of education in the United States. So if you're currently in high school and you are looking at that community college, you're going to have to go through that community college and then go into a JD program because you don't have your bachelor's degree from your home country. If you're still in high school, do your LLB in law from your home country. That will then allow you to do an LLM for 1 year in the United States. That may be a better route if you're looking at that particular practice. And so it's going to depend on your circumstances. If you're looking at getting into law, doing your LLB in your home country will give you more options. You will be able to sit and practice law in your home country and qualify to practice law in the US. If you skip that and just do the JD in the US, you're going to be able to qualify for the US, yes, but whether or not you get a work visa stay is a different story, and you may not be able to go back to your home country and practice law. And so if you can focus on doing your LLB, get your credential in your home country, that gives you two options versus putting all your eggs in one basket, as we say in the US, and only doing the JD in the US, then you really don't have too many options on practicing law in your home country.
Thank you, Sarah. I think we are done with all these questions, but I'm just wondering, because I have one related to the fact that we have a lot of LLM students that would come with their families. So we have like couples, we have couples with their children, and I was just wondering how UNLV are supporting those students. Do they provide housing? Do they provide them some tips on how is life? And I mean, like just day-to-day life, how would that look for them? And how do you support them on that?
Sure. So we do have people that would do travel with their families to come study in the U.S. So when studying, you're on a work visa, you can get visas for your dependents. That would be your spouse and your children. What's nice about studying in the U.S. is we have schools that are available, and then all the public schools are available for free. And then if you choose to do private schools, that's for cost, but those are all available. UNLV does housing available on campus. But what's nice is we are literally in the middle of the city. And so there are many other apartment buildings that surround the campus that are not technically on-campus housing, that will be more apartment structure versus dorm structure, where families have stayed. I did have a father and son go through the program that stayed literally across the street. It was a 10-minute walk to the law school building from the apartment, and they even have furnished options. So if you have you can elect to do furnished housing options. I always describe Las Vegas as big town resources, small town feel. To get from one side of Las Vegas to another, it can maybe take 30 minutes. And if you have traffic, maybe 35, and so we're a fairly affordable city. And so many of those with kids will stay in areas like Henderson, which is ranked as one of the safest cities. And they have great parks and public education. And it's only a 10-15-minute drive to campus. So there are lots of resources available for those that are bringing their families or kids. There are a lot of different adult education options available. So for those bringing spouses, they typically want something to do. So, I've always been putting them to the adult education centers where they can go take that hobby class or something else to kind of keep themselves busy, or volunteering their opportunities to kind of engage in the Las Vegas community. Anything and everything happens in Las Vegas, and you can't really get bored with things that happen in the city. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you very much to everyone that have addressed their questions. And thank you, Sarah, for your experience and for your detailed responses. We really appreciate the tips and the advices that we've got during this interview, during this presentation, sorry, because it was like an interview almost. Okay, so for all those who would be interested afterwards to find more information yourself, and you have our email address on the website for more information on advising from Education USA centers. Thank you so much, everyone that have joined us. Thank you, Sarah. I really hope that we can work on future webinars, because I think our students really like that, and I really hope that they will use all these advices in their application. Good luck to everyone who is in the process of applying, and good luck, Sarah. I wish you more successful students and a lot of them interested and succeeding.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.